Welcome to Talking Buffalo, featuring conversations with guests from around the world of sports, media, pop culture, and all things Buffalo. With your host, Patrick Moran.
All right, what is going on, everyone? How you doing? Welcome to another episode of Talking Buffalo, your weekday daily driver for Buffalo sports talk and more. My name is Patrick Moran. Thank you so much for watching, for listening. Appreciate you guys very, very much. Big shout out to both our sponsors, Sunny Reds, 1841 Abbott Road, and of course, Imperial Pizza with two locations, one near Canisius College on Main Street, the other one in the heart of South Buffalo, 1035 Abbott Road, home of the best lunch special in town. All right, folks, this is our midweek episode. Normally, I would have Matt Warren from SB Nation on with me, but Matt is off this week. I got a really good guest in his place today, Ajay Cybulski. Now doing some stuff with Trainwreck too, man. I love to see it. What's going on, buddy? How you doing?
I'm doing well. Nice Tuesday. We're recording on a Tuesday. Nice day today. I'm doing well, enjoying some Bills camp, and I didn't actually get to enjoy much of Bills camp. I went to the blue and red, which is pretty cool. But other than that, it's all been secondhand for me, and I'm looking forward to obviously the Bill season. I'm really excited for it.
Let's all right. So here's what we're gonna do today, folks. I want to spend some time with AJ, kind of talking about a handful of players on both sides of the fence. A few players who have really kind of helped their cause over the last couple weeks between, like, say, the end of training camp and the first preseason game last Saturday. When the Bills took on the Giants. So we'll talk about some guys who have really helped their cause, whether it's making the roster, whether it's maybe moving up on the depth chart. And then conversely, we'll talk about a handful of guys who I feel like, and, I look forward to getting some insight from AJ here, a handful of guys who have maybe kind of hurt their cause, at least to some extent, whether it's, again, are they in danger of not making this team now? Are they falling down on the depth chart? We'll kind of take a look at it from both ways, the good and the bad today. Also, a few other things that we will hit on. Before we get into some Bills talk, real quick, AJ, I got a question for you, man. You have a food take out there that intrigues me, and it kind of has perked my ears because you are the only person I've heard talk about this spot other than, myself having been there several times. But if you live in, like, the West Seneca, South Buffalo, like, border, there is a place called Potter's Field. It's very well known in that neighborhood, but not so much outside. Kind of one of those, like, sleeper places, generally speaking, here in Western New York. You have a take with their wings that you think they might actually be the best that you've had anywhere in Western New York. I'm pretty high on them myself. Elaborate on that. Let's throw a little bit of shine at a place that people don't talk about enough. Potter's Field, man. Well, what's up with them?
Yeah, so I went there about last year. Mike Bunn, who's also over at Trainwreck, let me know about them. And they had this Murph style sauce, which I'm still really trying to figure out what it is. It's kind of like their homemade hot sauce, but I've been there probably since then, probably like 10 or 11 times in the last year. And every single time that I go there, it's consistent. It's crispy, great size. The sauce is great. The blue cheese cups, if you're a big blue cheese person, usually they come in like the smaller cups. These ones are like a bit taller, so you can really get a good dip in there. And I just love them. They're very consistent. Like I said, the crisp is great, and you can't beat it. I like the environment. It's a smaller place. The service is always great. They have good fries. They also do Murph sauce fries where they coat their fries in it. So if you want to do that, I know you're familiar with it, but yeah, it's a real good place, and it is my favorite wing in Buffalo. I'll say it right now.
Well, I'll say this: the Murph's style sauce, it's not unique to Potter's Field. Like, there's a handful of places in South Buffalo that have them. However, they do something different to it. Like, they add a little something to it that makes it stand out. Imperial does it too in a different type of way. But yeah, Potter's Field has they do a little something different with the Murph sauce. The Murph's flavored or the Murph style sauce you get at Potter's Field is not the same that you're going to get, say, at Doc Sullivan's, for an example, just to use a place. It's really, really, really good. And so is their traditional hot wing, like their regular buffalo wing style is really good. And I don't know, man, it kind of warms my heart to hear someone else talk about a place like that, because it's always, it's always Bar Bill, and it's always 9/11, it's always Adolf, Skelly's Corner. I've been banging on the drum for good reason, Sunny Reds, but it's nice to hear people talk about another spot like Potter's Field. They deserve some shine. Really good wings. I'll tell you what, dude, I don't know. When you really like something a lot, you don't want to mess around with anything else. But I'll tell you, I go there all the time. Chicken fingers are really, really good there as well. They have a good beef on weck sandwich. They even have a good burger and fries. So the food there is awesome. You said it. The service is really cool.
Yeah.
It is a fun, nice little neighborhood bar. There's a golf course. Cas course is right off to the side. So a lot of people, especially during warm weather season, they'll go play their round of golf, and they'll come have a couple pints there afterwards. So it's a really good environment. To your point, though, the only downside to it is that it is small. It is small. You go there with your crew on a Thursday or a Friday or a Saturday night, and sometimes you're going to have a really hard time finding a spot to chill out in. But for good reason, because people like going there. So I'm just happy that you give some love to Potter's Field out there.
Yeah, it's the soup as well. I get there. They do a soup, like a soup flight, and I always get like their French onion, and they do the stuffed banana pepper and cream and potato or whatever their soup is. So their soup is also very elite, and I really enjoy it. So yeah, it's a good spot. I mean, I like Adolph's. I've had them all. Kelly's Corner. I've done like Wing Nuts. I've had all those elite places. They're all great. Kelly's Corner is actually one of my favorites as well. Sunny Reds is also up there. But something about Potter's Field, man. I don't know if it's the uniqueness, the environment, the combination. But it's just number one for me.
Yeah, it's one of my favorites for sure. Talk about real quick here too. So last time you and I talked, you've been on the podcast before.
Yeah.
You were leaving. You had a full-time job at the time, sports writing, transitioned out. But since we've talked, you're doing stuff with Trainwreck. Now you're still involved. You've gotten involved, at least on a part-time basis, still with content creation. Obviously, something that you still very much love doing. Just kind of talk about that a little bit. What have you been up to lately?
Yeah, so I'm really excited. Looking forward to this year, being with Trainwreck, having more of a laid-back role, where you kind of just get to do, what I like to do and do it as a hobby, and just kind of do it, cover press conferences when I can. Just enjoy it from a fan perspective again. I've been actually pizza delivering this summer. I do summer classes. So I'm still trying to grind out some money and get, some classes done, because I'll be student teaching next spring. I'm at Buff State right now. So I'm planning on looking for jobs next summer for teaching. But in the meantime, I'll want to continue to do this, stuff on the side and make content, cover the Bills, talk about the Bills, do podcasts. We do Pay the Bills. I'm part of that on Trainwreck. That's every Tuesday night. I'm not able to join it right now as much because I'm doing pizza delivery almost every night. So I don't have much time. But once in season, you'll get everyone who pays attention to Trainwreck and Pay the Bills. I'll be on there starting during the season. So yeah, I've been really enjoying it. It's been good, and I'm happy where I'm at.
This is kind of talking Buffalo's been a little bit of a pay homage to Trainwreck Sports of late. I had Mike Bunn on last week, and I'll tell you, he's been crushing it. He did crush it, I should say, at training camp. I had to tip my cap to him, and I admit it. I was a little bit critical about him having a credential. I'm like, really? Trainwreck Sports got a credential to cover camp? Well, he earned it, and he did a hell of a job, man. Brought some unique content to Bills fans, and I gave him a lot of props for that. Much deserved. Actually, tomorrow on the show, I got Maniac coming on too as well. So we're going to review HBO Hard Knocks. We're recording this. I need to point this out too. AJ and I are recording this late Tuesday morning. So by the time most people listen to this, Hard Knocks would have already had aired. So we're not really going to cover that today. Maniac will, though, on the show with me and plenty of other Bills talk and stuff as well tomorrow. Anyway, all right, let's jump in. Tuesday morning, the Bills are back to practice. And again, this is different now. It's still training camp, but it's different. It's St. John Fisher. It's open to the public. Anybody with a ticket can go. Now it's closed and it's media only. So information becomes a little more scarce, harder to get. And there's also, now that the public portion is over, there's restrictions with what reporters can and can't report publicly. Like when you're at St. John Fisher, there's fans. There's nothing from stopping you or me or anybody from taking videos of every play of practice. But now, obviously, you can't do that. So information is going to be a little more scarce. Pick and choose who you trust the most wisely when it comes to people who are giving that kind of information out there. But Sean McDermott did speak to the media before practice on Tuesday. And so before we get into our who's helped and hurt themselves, stock up, stock down, whatever you want to call it, the big news, James Cook, after I believe it's 4 days where he held in and missed a game, James Cook is back at practice. We did see several videos on Tuesday morning. He's in full uniform and he's a full participant at practice. What are your thoughts on that? Because going back to last Thursday, Sean McDermott, the last Bills training camp practice at St. John Fisher, he clearly expected Cook to be out there, and then he wasn't, and that was newsworthy. And then he admitted that he expected him to play, or that he wanted him to play on Saturday, and Cook decided he was not going to play against the Giants. Obviously, that's newsworthy. HBO Hard Knocks, I don't want to get into it because it's airing tonight, but you could bet your ass that a lot of it's going to have to do with James Cook's hold-in this next episode that we're going to be seeing. Are you surprised at all that James Cook is back? What's your reaction to him being back? Do you think that this means that maybe they're closer to something, or do you just think that they're mutually agreeing right now that, hey, man, this is a good look for both sides for you to be out there? What are your thoughts right now?
Yeah, I guess I could say I'm surprised it was this early, maybe a little bit. Like, I was surprised for him to be back out there. But with him warming up on Saturday before the game, even though he chose not to play, and McDermott thought he was going to or wanted him to, I still think this is a good sign for the Bills. I always thought that no matter how the situation handled out, whatever we saw in Hard Knocks, however that went, and the whole storyline, I knew James Cook was going to be out there week one. So I was never too overly concerned. It's just a guy trying to get more money out of a team that he feels he's deserving of and feels like he's a very important piece to. But at the end of the day, I don't know what this really means in terms of if they're closer on a deal or if they're just trying to, they tried their hardest to try and become closer on a contract, and now they're trying to bet on themselves to get the big payday for Cook and his agent. But all in all, I think it's a good sign. It's good to see him out there back with the team. And I think it's really important for the Bills that he's out there. And I'm a big proponent of re-signing James Cook. Now, not for, 13, 14, 15 million, but that 10 to 12 range. If they can somehow get to an agreement there, maybe give him a little bit more guaranteed money, nice 3-year, 4-year deal to keep him around. He brings a skill set to this Bills team that we haven't seen in a long time. And I would even say since maybe LaShawn McCoy. With his importance to this offense and with the way Joe Brady, manipulates and runs his offense and the amount of times they run the ball, they can use him in the air. I think it's really important that he stays around. So we'll see if, they can get an offer, but I think it's a really good sign that he's out there practicing, and I'm excited to see, how this kind of unfolds and if they can get a deal done before September.
I need to be careful because there is a lot of time between when we record this, which is, I'm looking right now, it's around 11 a.m. on Tuesday. Hard Knocks airs 9 p.m. on Tuesday night. Most people are going to be listening to this, hopefully, early Wednesday morning. There's I don't know, maybe it's the natural conspiracy theorist in me here, but I have a strong sense that episode 2 of Hard Knocks. So episode 1 was feel good, football's back, baby. Josh is the MVP, all the good vibes, featuring the stars, the blue and red scrimmage, the crowd, playing the killers, all the, just excited to be back. I feel like episode 2 is heavily going to be about James Cook and the hold in and both, maybe get some stuff from both sides. Who knows? But anyway, kind of a little more gloomier picture of the Buffalo Bills as opposed to week 1 where everything was just rosy as can be. I wonder if James Cook practicing today being Tuesday, it kind of a mutual decision that, hey, this is going to be not a great look for James Cook. It might not be a great look for the Buffalo Bills organization either. This next edition of Hard Knocks, let's get on the field today and kind of, the temperature is going to be a little less warm. It's not going to be as hot because James Cook is back in practice. So you watch, AJ, you and I are grabbing some wings and a beer at Potter's Field tonight, and we're watching HBO Hard Knocks, and we're probably left with a pretty shitty feeling, an ominous feeling about James Cook and the Bills. However, hey, guess what? He practiced today. He practiced on Tuesday. So I'm not as worried about what I saw on TV tonight. Do you think that maybe that might have anything to do with James Cook being back today on Tuesday?
Now, will that be in today's? Will they put? Do you know if Tuesday morning stuff is in Hard Knocks? No,
I'd be completely and utterly stunned. I think that the game. I think part 2 is going to be about what's going on with Cook, other stuff, maybe people we don't know about, and then full coverage of the Saturday game, all that stuff. But it takes 24 hours or probably maybe a little more to like fully edit it. So I'm not saying for sure no, but I'd be stunned if it did.
Okay, so I mean, yeah, that could be part of it. But I mean, maybe looking forward ahead to Hard Knocks episode 3, that is a possibility in terms of making James Cook look better and the Bills look better. But yeah, I agree with you on your Hard Knocks take that's going to come out later today. I think it is going to be a little bit more doom and gloom, and we're going to see a different side and the business side of the NFL and how that really works and how it's sometimes hard for especially running backs. I think it's also important that this is a running back because I think this could give some light to other running backs around the league that have these short shelf lives, that these contracts are really important. You might only get one really big contract. If you're a Derrick Henry or a Saquon and you can play into your early 30s at a high level, maybe you can get 2 big contracts. But for a lot of these guys, one big contract is really the goal. So I think it will also bring some importance to the running back position across the league. And I think other running backs will view, if they're watching this, will view it and think that it's an important thing for them.
I don't want to be too speculatory, so we'll move on from this topic. Like I said, a lot of time, who knows? Maybe by the time people listen to this, the Bills have signed a contract with James Cook, or maybe other news breaks. Who knows? I don't want to dive into something that we don't know about because there's too much time before this actually airs. But in terms of players who are still not practicing, there's a handful of them. Tyler Bass, kind of among them. Curtis Samuel. Van Brand, Granger, Anderson, Grable. 2 points that I got from all this. We're getting to a point with Curtis Samuel, which Sean McDermott did say on Tuesday, he thinks that it's close to him coming back. It's got to be soon. If he's going to be ready for the season, it's got to be soon. They get 2 IR slots where you could be designated to return. I'd be willing to bet money Max Saracen's taking one of those spots. Is Curtis Samuel in play for one of them at this point if he doesn't get back this week? I don't know, dude. I feel like it would be pretty cut and dry. If Curtis Samuel didn't have a big dead cap hit, I feel like we know where this would be going. But the fact is he does. He's got a $7.5 million dead cap hit right now. I don't know that he's a valuable trade commodity because who wants to take on an off-injured guy with a pretty big cap hit? I don't know. What are you thinking right now with Samuel? Because there are guys at the bottom of the roster, 1 or 2, which we're going to talk about here shortly, that are really making a push here to be a part of this team. Meanwhile, Curtis Samuel he can't stay healthy.
Yeah, and it was the same thing last year, right? You go back to the beginning of last year at training camp, he had the turf toe injury that kind of hindered him, and then he really was not able to get in a groove. And some even believe that lingered into the regular season, and that's why you saw struggling Curtis Samuel to start the year. He came on a bit late, and now he comes into this year coming off I would say maybe not that big of a high, but a better finish to his first season with the Bills. And now he is, kind of right back to where he was with a soft tissue hamstring injury that he's been dealing with. And like we said, we're going to talk about a couple of players here shortly. It does stink for Samuel. And I think with that dead cap situation, I don't really know if you can do anything with him and if you can trade him as well, because like you said, who's going to want a player who's in his upper 20s, who's getting injured constantly. So yeah, I am worried about Samuel. Now, the good thing is that they've invested at the wide receiver position with Palmer and Keon. They're hoping a big jump from him, where I don't think going into the season, the expectation for Samuel is as high. So that maybe will help him kind of settle back in. And when he's ready to be, fully involved in this offense, they can, because they have more guys to rely on in that room. But I mean, it's going to be at this point, if he doesn't get back soon, Pat, I think there is a possibility that he is not, on the roster. And we'll get to that here shortly.
Yeah, look, I'm starting to see a scenario where nobody's, again, you're not going to get a 7th round pick for Curtis Samuel. It's going to come to, if you really want to get him off this roster, first of all, you could just eat the dead cap. I mean, that could come into play. But if you want to try to trade, it might cost you, maybe a 5th in Samuel for a 6th. You know what I mean? You're giving up more comp than you give back, but that's the way somebody will take on that contract. Then you're saving cap money and you're not eating dead cap money. So it does make sense in that way. You're kind of paying some draft capital potentially to get him off the roster if it comes for that. But anyway, look, Curtis Samuel to me is a guy who's 2 to 3 reception a game, and you hope some of those are big ones. And it was last year in the Chiefs. I mean, that huge 4th down catch. So he does have a role for this team if he could get on the field and stay on the field. But we've been talking about him a lot, but you know what nobody's talking about that it kind of really hit me today for the first time is we're going through these injuries, and we're talking about Samuel, and we're talking about the safeties, Taylor Rapp and Cole Bishop, both of who are limited at practice on Tuesday. So at least they're on the way back. Right. That's good. But 3 offensive linemen, Granger, Alec Anderson, Tylen Grable, none of those guys are practicing. And you look at the Bills' depth chart, that's 3 of the 4 guys who are almost certainly going to be the depth offensive lineman for the team this year. You can have Ryan Vandermark. He's another one. So that you got 4. Those are your 4 guys probably who are making this roster. None of them are here right now, and none of them are practicing at all. I know Anderson's going to be at least a few weeks. Granger hasn't practiced at all pretty much. He's missed all camp because of the calf injury, and Grable's been bothered now for a solid week and a half. I kind of feel like a low-key, no one's talking about concern with this team might be the health of the offensive line depth right now because, again, 3 of the 4 primary guys are all hurt, and we're just a couple of weeks away from the season at this point.
Yeah, that is definitely a concern. And for an offensive line that has been as healthy as the Bills, they actually showed the graphic during the preseason game. All 5 starters last year that are all returning played 16 games. They didn't play the last one because they rested because they already had the 2 seed or whatever. But yeah, this offensive line has stayed relatively healthy, and that we haven't really seen the depth have to do much. I mean, we saw a lot of Alec Anderson last year, him really kind of blossom into that 6th offensive lineman role for this team. But yeah, that's definitely a concern, and that's given guys like Chase Lundt, the rookie, an opportunity to step up, who had a really good preseason debut, 32 snaps and 0 pressures allowed. So that's a good sign for a 6th rounder who I think has some promise and could maybe take advantage of these injured guys like Granger and Grable and Anderson, who are all out. I think Anderson's probably really safe. Obviously, you mentioned Vandermark, but Granger and Grable, they have yet to, really prove themselves, right? And I think that gives an opportunity for Chase Lundt to, maybe squeak up the roster here a little bit if he continues his good preseason.
Yeah, I'm getting to a point now where I look at a guy like Van Granger, and I could see him becoming a put on injury reserve and miss the season, kind of stash him away candidate. I mean, he's missed all of training camp. He's not practiced at all. And he's obviously not going to play this game coming up this Saturday. Probably doesn't play at all during the preseason. What's he going to give you this year? You know what I mean? You might be better off having Alec Anderson being the backup center, or maybe even Feeney, who they signed recently. Maybe that guy ends up making the team. So I'm getting to a point now where I could definitely see that. And I want to move on to some players who I feel like I said, they've really helped themselves recently. And the guy I want to start with there, and we'll talk about this guy, then we'll take a quick break and come back. Jordan Hancock. I want to start here because I went to a little more than half of the camp practices, and I was wondering, where's Jordan Hancock early on in practice? He was playing exclusively slot corner, all right, and he was getting 3rd-team reps. It was Teron, of course, and when it wasn't Teron, it was Cam Lewis, and then it was Jordan Hancock. Wasn't playing any safety at all. And over the last couple practices at camp, he started playing safety, and I feel like that was almost exclusively because guys were getting hurt. Cole Bishop got hurt. Taylor Rapp, he has a knee issue. He's working his way back, but so he finally started getting a look at safety. And then fast forward, and I thought he looked good too near the end of camp. Fast forward to Saturday, maybe the guy on this team that I was the most pleasantly surprised by against the Giants was Jordan Hancock. This dude was all over the place, AJ, making plays, man. There was one play, you see it on film, he was like shot out of a cannon there to sideline. He makes a really tough physical tackle. He looked good in coverage. He had a couple nice blitz reps. Of course, he had an interception that got nullified because of a Landon Jackson offsides. This guy felt electric to me. One game, okay, preseason, I get it. Let's not get too crazy here. Sean McDermott did speak Tuesday about him and said he's still kind of a guy that they don't know where he's going to play at. I'm like, yo, he's playing safety, dude. What are you, nuts? What's going on? What are we doing here? But anyway, Jordan Hancock, so when you combine the fact that you got two guys who are banged up and, kind of consistently, DeMar Hamlin, we'll talk about him in a few. Cam Lewis, kind of know what he is. Hancock is a guy, I think, whose stock is quickly going way up, man. I think he's done a lot. He is an absolute lock as a 5th-round picker to make this roster right now.
Yeah, Jordan Hancock impressed me as well. I liked what I saw. You mentioned the play where he was a single high safety and made a great play on the sideline and tackled the running back. It was a first down, but he's still, like you said, shot out of a cannon and was physical, point of attack and made the tackle. And McDermott mentioned today at his press conference Tuesday morning before practice that they still don't know where he's going to play. And I think you already mentioned that, but that's and McDermott said that's a good thing because he can play at multiple spots in the secondary. So you saw him at nickel. And you're seeing him a little bit more at safety. I think his versatility is a really good thing for this Bills defense. They've tried that with Cam Lewis. He's played multiple positions. They've thrown him at safety. They've looked at him at nickel corner. I think he even maybe started at cornerback at one time. I think he's been all over the place as well. But I think Jordan Hancock, you see a higher upside with him as a guy that can play all over the field. And I really like what he brings physically. I think he's good enough in coverage. I think there's still a lot to be improved there with Hancock, understanding where he needs to be in this defense, which is why I would not expect too much from him, especially early in the regular season. But
sure,
if players keep getting hurt, if Cole Bishop cannot stay healthy, if Taylor Rapp continues to get banged up, if you don't feel confident with the DeMar Hamlin out there, even though he knows the system and his floor is probably a little bit higher, and a Cam Lewis, who, like you said, I think you already know what you got there. I could see Hancock making an impact this year. And again, I don't think that would be early, but I could see down the line him being a piece that they want to use and utilize as the weeks progress in the regular season.
Don't get fooled by Sean. He's playing safety. I'll tell you that right now. He's playing safety, man. And, man, I envision, and again, not really necessarily, not this year, but I'm starting to envision feels like a good free safety to me, where Cole Bishop ends up becoming the more in-the-box safety, because Cole Bishop's going to probably be, that deeper safety this year, but I still feel that his natural position is best in the box where Taylor Rapp currently plays. So maybe you see a Bishop Hancock future there. We've been so spoiled, dude. You kind of you realize it with Poyer and with Hyde all these years. It was just stability, continuity, comfort. Let's talk about other positions because we ain't even got to worry about safety. And now it's just chaotic. It's pure chaos when it comes to safety. Is this guy healthy? Who's playing here? Is DeMar Hamlin going to start whether, Bishop's ready to go or not? All these questions is just, like I said, it's so chaotic. Anyway, let's take a real quick break, come back on the other side, and we'll get to a handful of players who have helped themselves, and then we'll talk about a few who I feel that kind of hurt themselves a little bit. All right, back here with Ajay Cybulski. I am well on my way to being a liar, like I always am. I tell AJ or whoever's my guest, it's going to be a short episode, not going to be long at all. But yet here we are about halfway through this episode. All right, so we hit on Hancock. Let's just, these aren't necessarily in order of significance, but you mentioned him earlier, Chase Lundt. I thought he is showing well for himself. Look, if you're a rookie or a 6th-round rookie and you're trying to make this team, the preseason is very important to you. And he showed out very well. You mentioned it. He had 32 pass reps. He did not give up a single quarterback pressure. So an impressive debut for him, coupled with the fact that Grable, who is vying to be the swing tackle with Ryan Vandermark, who's been all right out there. I think he did well for himself. Now, maybe that doesn't, depending on how the injuries shake out, maybe he doesn't make this roster, but by helping yourself, AJ, there's 31 other teams out there that are seeing tape. So maybe he makes the Bills roster, maybe he doesn't, but he is helping himself get a job in the NFL this year. Let's just put it that way. Yeah,
the dream would be for the Bills, I think, practice squad if they decide to keep, non-offensive linemen. But I mean, that's going to be tough because he's 6th-round rookie. If he continues to perform like he is in the preseason, I think that will be a bit harder to keep him on the practice squad. But I think that would be the dream scenario. Get him on the practice squad. If you need to call him up for a couple games due to injury, do it. But that's kind of where I'm at with Lundt. But again, maybe he can sneak on this roster if he continues to play the way he has. And I think he brings, physicality. He brings everything you want really in an offensive lineman. It's just, becoming more polished with his technique and becoming a better run blocker. And that, again, that will come with time. And he's a guy who can be a player down the road for this Bills team. I think that can offer some depth. I mean, this offensive line is so talented. So I don't see him, taking away snaps from anybody up front, at least till, for the foreseeable future. But he's a great, depth piece for this Bills team that I think does have a chance of making the roster. And if he doesn't, I think the practice squad is a great possibility as well.
I think he's getting to a level where the practice squad, it's still a good chance, but I wouldn't say it's a lock that he stays there. He could get poached. Right. And speaking of, let's go to my next guy, Frank Gore Jr. I'm always impressed when I watch him at camp. He looks the part. And then against the Giants, I thought he ran very well. He also caught 5 passes. Now, I want to be clear. Short of James Cook getting traded or one of these 3 running backs getting hurt, Frank Gore's not making this 53-man roster. The Bills are set at running back. However, if your goal is to get Frank Gore Jr. on the practice squad, I don't know, man. I feel like there's a team out there that he's a top 3 running back in on one of these depth charts somewhere around the league. I thought he had a really good game against the Giants, and I thought he's looked really good at training camp. James, a little kind of a benefit for him with James Cook holding out or holding in from some of these practices is you got to see more Frank Gore. He's looked apart, and I'm starting to doubt that he will clear waivers. Like when the Bills waive him, I'm not sure he's going to be back in Buffalo.
Yeah, Frank Gore Jr. had a very solid game on Saturday against the Giants. I thought that he ran well. He ran physical. He was able to, break tackles, not only, for his size and stature, he's a bit smaller, but you still saw his ability to, break multiple tackles and get those extra yards and fight for those extra yards. I thought he was also solid, like you said, Pat, in the passing game. I thought he was able to take those balls underneath and get yards after the catch, which is really important for running backs when a quarterback's, under duress and all his reads are taken away, the running back's there and he can make something happen with the ball. So I like Frank Gore Jr. I feel like every year, and I know we're going to touch on Shavers here in a minute, but there's a lot of players around the league that have solid preseasons. And I think that we, not that like we as fans, we overvalue them. Because we're the ones watching them all the time. But I think it is a bit easier to get players back on the practice squad. So I don't know, maybe Frank Gore Jr. is a player that teams have their eye on and they think he can be a top 3 back in their system as soon as this year. But I'd hope that Frank Gore Jr. is another practice squad candidate. And again, if he continues the ball like he has in this first preseason game, I think that'll be a little bit harder. And I think that'll be tougher. But I think that there's also, it's not a lock. It's not a high chance, but I think there is a good opportunity for Frank Gore Jr. to be back on this roster on the practice squad and be kind of that 4th running back behind Johnson, Davis, and Cook.
He's never going to be his dad, but I think he's an NFL running back. Yeah. I'm convinced that he is an NFL running back, and if it's not with Buffalo, he's going to get a crack at some point somewhere. I don't know. You know what, AJ, when you kind of get to a point where you feel a little conflicted because it's like, well, I want this guy to succeed. However, if he's in Buffalo, he's not. He's going to be on the practice squad. Do you know what I'm saying? It's like, man, part of me is like, man, I'd love to see him go to, I don't know, the Minnesota Vikings and carve himself out a nice career because I like him. Right. But I also want him to do well with the Buffalo Bills. And it's going to be very, very difficult if everyone stays healthy, of course, for him to do that. Best case, if he gets back to the Bills practice squad, I would feel very good. If something were to happen to one of the 3 running backs, I would feel good about Frank Gore Jr. Being elevated. You mentioned Shavers. Let's go to him now. I'm going to take it one step further than most people have when talking about him. I think he's making this team straight up. I know people are, he's in contention. He's got a chance. I think he's making this team. I think he's making this team whether the Bills keep 6 receivers. If they keep 6 receivers, he's a lock if he stays healthy. Even if they keep 5 receivers, AJ, I think they might move on from finding a way to move on from Samuel or finding a way to move on from Moore, who we'll talk about here in a few. But I think Shavers has done enough offensively, and coupled with the fact that he does play special teams fairly well, too, with a unit where you got Shakir, Coleman, and Palmer, your top three, and Samuel, Moore, whoever you want as that fourth. None of those guys play special teams. You got to have a receiver or two who offers value on special teams, as Shavers does. I think Shavers has looked really, really good. I'm not telling you something that you and everyone else doesn't know, but I think he's making this football team.
Yeah, Tyrell Shavers was a standout at San Diego State when he was there before he came in undrafted. He actually, I think, led the team in blocked punts. I think he had 3 blocked punts that season. So he has that special teams capability. And I will say, I think what gives Shavers a little bit of a lead on an Elijah Moore, and I'm not saying that Elijah Moore is not going to make the roster. I think if they keep 6, he will be on it. But I think Shavers has been in the system, and I think the players have talked so highly, Christian Benford specifically, of just his work ethic, his blood, sweat, and tears. He's always the first guy in the building, working hard. He's not even, I don't think, 100% right now. He's still battling. He had an injury earlier in camp, so he's still kind of playing, not even at that full 100% level or 100% capability that he could be. So I love Shavers. I think he is a guy that the Bills value. It's his 3rd year in the system. He understands the playbook more. They mentioned that in the commentary, Tasker, and who's with Steve Tasker on? Do you know who who's the play-by-play guy?
Oh God,
Catalano, Andrew Catalano.
Yeah, it's on the tip of my tongue. I'm picturing his face right now. I know what you're talking about.
Yeah. They talked about how Shavers has really, just put the work in and understands the playbook more, and he feels more comfortable in this Bills system. So I like Shavers. I think he's a great boundary receiver. You saw that big explosive play toward the end of the first half from Trubisky, where he, separated and made a big play for the Bills to get 3 extra points there at the end of the half. And I just really like the guy. I think he's a solid all-around player. He looks the part, right? You look at him and you can tell that he's capable of playing in the NFL. I've seen him now. I mean, this is our 3rd go-around with him having a, stellar preseason. And I think now is the time for him to get that full opportunity to be a guy on a 53-man roster to see what you can do. It's not going to be a big role. It's not going to be huge, but if injury occurs or you want to, Joe Brady wants to scheme something for him one game to kind of confuse a defense that maybe aren't too worried about a Shavers going into it because they got a game plan for all these other players on the Bills. I think he's a guy that can really bring some juice toward the end of that wide receiver depth chart and be a playmaker when called upon.
Laviska Shenault. This is a guy who, look, does he make this team? I don't know, but it was apparent Saturday against the Giants that Sean wants to give this guy a legitimate look. He returned the first kick. He returned a punt, which he's never done before. He was on coverage. He was a gunner on a punt. He was a blocker on a kickoff return. And as a receiver, he did catch, which at the moment was a significant part of the game, a 2-point conversion at receiver. He is another guy who, maybe Brandon Codrington isn't quite the lock to be the return specialist for the Bills this year. Maybe Shenault is in play for that. Again, 6th receiver / special teams guy, 7th receiver, but your special teams, your specialist. And at Codrington, I don't know how it all plays out. I don't want to get too far ahead with Shenault, but I will say, since we're talking about players who helped themselves, I think Laviska Shenault did a lot on Saturday to help his case there going forward into Chicago week.
Yeah, I think you really laid out the Shenault kind of pathway to the roster. I'm still a Codrington fan. I still want him to make the roster. I liked him as a returner last year. I thought he was solid, reliable. And I think he brings, he can do both kick and punt. I really do like Codrington. He also plays defensive back and got some reps defensively late in that game. So he offers versatility there. But like I said, you laid the path out for Shenault. He's playing gunner. He's playing receiver and making big plays. They're seeing what he can do as a punt returner. And like you mentioned, his first in the NFL. He's never done that before. You saw some juice as a kick returner. And again, he's a guy that was highly touted coming out, right? Like people really like Shenault as a player who could be an impact guy, a big play guy.
2nd round pick.
Yeah. So there was also that I think kind of weighs on people in terms of when you think about him. People really did think he was going to be a special player in this league. And maybe that's not what he is, but he can still be, like a special teams guy and an explosive punt returner, kick returner, whatever you want him to be. Maybe he can fill in at wide receiver if needed. But I think those two, they're still going to battle it out. I would still give the edge to Codrington. In my eyes, that's who I would choose. I don't know what the Bills are thinking, because I think Shenault is getting a lot more opportunity than I thought. And I think McDermott's really giving him a ample, sample size of showing what he can do. But we'll see how that plays out. I think that's a really interesting battle on this Bills roster that maybe not many are realizing. But keep an eye on Codrington versus Shenault moving forward, because I think that's a battle that we'll continue to see play out here in the next few weeks.
Agreed, 100%. All right, let's flip the switch. I got 4 guys. Actually, there's 2 guys. We don't even need to talk about them. I'm not going to say they hurt their cause recently, because they just never got it going. Derek Forrest, the safety, Olafosio, the 5th-round rookie from last year, he's just buried on this depth chart. Even with injuries all over the place on linebacker, he's still not getting out on the field. So I don't even really want to classify them as hurting their cause, because they never really got things going. I am obviously disappointed about Forrest, because I thought he could be a player. And, my mindset was, well, he was good in 2022, the starter. Then he got hurt in 2023. And 2024, new regime change. Maybe the coaches just had a different philosophy. Now I'm starting to wonder, maybe it wasn't the coaches. Why? Because he's here with the Bills, and he's getting surpassed by everybody. But I do want to talk about 4 guys who I think maybe, they've had promise, but they've hurt themselves recently. Different levels. I want to start with Zach Davidson, tight end. And man, look, I don't think he was making this roster anyway, because they got 3 tight ends. Hollis is making this team. But maybe even he hurt himself on Saturday. He definitely hurt himself on Saturday. 2 big drops, one of them deep. I know he had a nice special teams tackle, but man, when you're desperately trying to make a statement that you either belong on this roster or at least a priority priority practice squad player, didn't do himself any favors at all. He really hurt his cause.
Yeah, I think Davidson, it stinks, because he was a player last year that I thought really upped his stock, right? I think that's why he's back in this position with the opportunity to make this roster, because of what he did last preseason. He killed it at training camp last year. I remember there were days where Knox or Kincaid were out, and he would step right in and be a good option for Allen with that first team offense when Knox and Kincaid were struggling with injury last year. So I think that's why he's in this position. And it does stink, because I think he is winning, right? He is getting open, but you got to complete those plays, especially in the spot he's in, where you're really fighting for a roster spot with Jackson Hawes, who they drafted, who's a really, really solid run blocker. Zach Davidson is known for his pass catching ability, right? And getting open. And when you're not doing that, at least the catching the ball part, you're getting the open part, but you're not catching the ball. That is really going to hurt your stock. Going up against a 3rd tight end, Jackson Hawes, who, he also had a drop on a flat route. And he's not the best pass catcher, but his running ability and how Dawson Knox has talked about him and how Dalton Kincaid has talked about him during training camp, they really like his physical ability as a run blocker and what he can do. And they can, that can help the Bills in the way they run the ball, and bringing him in a 2 tight end set with a Knox, and they can kind of maul the ball down people's throats. So I think Davidson is on the outside looking in. I'd be stunned if he, made a move up the roster, but he really did hurt his stock with those drops. And just not being consistent enough as a pass catcher, like what his kind of specialty is in this league.
Elijah Moore, we'll go to him next. Now, in fairness to him, he had a donut on Saturday. He was wide open on the Bills' first series, and I mean wide open, and Mitch Trubisky either didn't see him or just decided to throw it underneath the Dalton Kincaid on 3rd and 15 anyway. Bare minimum, it's a 20, 25-yard gain. Very potentially a touchdown. I'd love to know by watching the All-22, but guess what? The NFL is screwed up this week. There's still, as we're recording, there's no All-22. Joe Marino has lost his goddamn mind over stuff like that. But anyway, you could see it even on the broadcast how open he was. That said, that play aside, I don't know that Elijah Moore is in danger of not making this roster, because, look, he does have a proven record of some success in the league, and that's going to go a long way. And there's a big difference between Mitch Trubisky not seeing him and Josh Allen being out there, and maybe it's a different ballgame, a different story there. But, $2.5 million guaranteed. I don't know that he's a lock, and whether he is or whether he isn't, I think the one thing, AJ, we can agree on, between the game Saturday and just training camp practice. Plus, he's also had some leg soreness issues recently. He hasn't done anything to really help his cause either with this team since the spring, where he was the OTA and the minicamp darling amongst the media and fans, right?
Yeah, I would agree. And that's why I think I'm on the other side of the fence, because we've heard, I don't want to say propaganda, but you're seeing these mandatory minicamp videos of him running routes in the open field. And look at how quick his route running is. And there was that one video that he released training where he looked like, possessed running those routes. And Bills fans got really excited. And I kind of just wanted to hinder expectations with that. Brown's depth chart last year, where he's coming from the Cleveland Browns. And right now they have Jerry Jeudy, Cedric Tillman, Jamari Thrash, Deontay Johnson, David Bell, DeAndre Carter are their top six. And the Browns really wanted nothing to do with Elijah Moore coming off a 60-catch season. That speaks to me.
Sure.
Because I think if they really valued him and what he did for that team last year in the passing game, I think they probably would have brought him back. And he signed late with the Bills, and he's coming off a great season. In terms of catches, his depth per target was around 5 yards. So it's not like he was really doing much down the field, but it was a lot of underneath routes. And again, that Browns offense is a mess anyway. But I think it just speaks to me that he signed later, and it's like you said, it's $2.5 million guaranteed, and it's only $1.75 million base. So he's only making $1.75 million in base, and then a $750,000 signing bonus. The rest of that $2.5 million is all incentives. So by no means do I think that is a lock for this Bills roster. But if they do keep six, I think he is a guy that, can be kind of a gadget player. They can use him. They've used him on end arounds a little bit. They've used him as a rusher. He can get open. He's quick. He's speedy. He can be a good underneath option for Allen. But I just want to hinder the expectations. Elijah Moore is not going to be a top 4 receiver on this roster, in my opinion. He's going to be more toward the bottom. And he'll be fighting with Curtis Samuel, I think, for those those targets come the season if they both make the team.
I thought, and it still could happen, where Moore and Samuel are both on the 53-man active roster. I kind of pivoted a little bit, and I don't know who it's going to be, but I could definitely see a scenario now where, whether it's a trade or just a cut, that one of those guys don't end up on this roster come week 1. The next guy on my list is Dane Jackson, and look, he wasn't really all that bad against the Giants. Like, he got beat for that touchdown. It wasn't like he got completely smoked and, right, left in out of his jock. He was there. He was a step behind, and he had a nice long pass breakup. Did some good things, some bad things. This is also going to camp where I kind of noticed up and down. When Max Harrison went down, I said, well, Dane Jackson's definitely making this team now. I don't know. I'm kind of let's do some real math here. Real-time math. So you got Trey, you got Benford, you got Teron. That's 3. Dorian Strong's making this team. He's a rookie. They got investment in him. He's a good special teams player. That's 4 corners for sure. Dane Jackson, Jamarcus Ingram. They keep 5 corners and 5 safeties. Do you consider Cam Lewis and Hancock one of those guys as a corner, or are they both safeties in your roster projection? I guess what I'm saying is, over the last week or so, if I have him in his category, it's because Dane Jackson went, for me, as somebody who's a lock to make this team because of as a veteran backup to somebody who I'm not sure, because he really didn't. While he didn't play terrible, he also didn't really take an advantage to make a big statement that, hey, I'm definitely making this team, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I'm with you on Dane Jackson. I actually loved the signing when it first came out. I thought, he was a perfect, like pairing him with Trey. Like, I feel like the Bills in the past have always relied on the one, like Levi Wallace, who's a veteran. They just had that one guy. And I think with Trey and Dane, they had 2 veterans in the system that knew what was going on. So I felt confident with where they were going in that corner room and how deep it was. But I agree that I don't think Dane Jackson's really helped his cause. He only signed a 1-year, $1.3 million deal with the team. So nothing crazy, nothing it's going to be hard to move on from. And he's fighting with Dorian Strong or Jamarcus Ingram towards the back half of that cornerback depth chart. And I have not seen enough. I think he did make some good plays. You mentioned up and down. There were a couple times where he was good in coverage. That throw from Dart was an absolute dot.
Perfect.
Also pressure from TJ Sanders up the middle, the rookie who kind of hammered him when he threw it. And it was a great throw. But I will say, I think Dane Jackson is on the outside looking in right now. And he's a guy that, again, knows the system. So I think that kind of helps him. But I haven't seen enough from him yet to really say he's a lock by any means.
let me go to the last guy here, and I'm going to preface this or update this. It's Damar Hamlin, but I got to be careful here, okay? Saturday, I thought he stunk, all right? I thought he was terrible, all right? And I know we're watching and nitpicking the play where Jackson got beat and Hamlin just kind of lollygagged. I don't think Damar Hamlin can make that play no matter what. It's not even so much that play. There were 2 or 3 other plays where he was just awful. There was one, that receiver Washington broke his ankles in about a 3-foot square spot. And it wasn't just him, to be fair. It was also Strong and Couch, too. 3 Bills defenders. You see the such glaring athleticism limitations in his game. I mean, it is obvious. You don't need to be Joe Marino or Eric Turner, any of these film gurus to be able to break that shit down. The dude can't run, all right, period. I wanted to put him in this category, but in real time, I listened to Sean McDermott, and I just pulled up while you were talking 2 quotes from Tuesday morning that tell you the complete and utter opposite. Number 1, Sean McDermott on Cole Bishop Tuesday morning said, Cole has missed quite a bit of time. It remains to be seen what he is truly able to do for us. We're getting short on time. I'm like, uh-oh. Second, Damar Hamlin. Let's not forget Damar played extensively for us last year, so we have a lot of confidence in him. So, the spirit of this conversation, AJ, is guys who have hurt themselves, hurt their stock. Well, guess what? It does not sound like Damar Hamlin, despite playing what I thought was a pretty damn shitty football game on Saturday and looking like he just looks at training camp. Fundamentally sound, doesn't make a lot of mistakes, pretty good tackler. He is pretty good in run support. Yep. He does certain things well. He just can't run. But it sure sounds like, don't be shocked, folks, week 1, if Damar Hamlin is starting, even if Cole Bishop is back. I don't like what I heard from Sean McDermott on Tuesday, and that's got me pivoting here in real time as we're recording this show. So I'm scratching Damar Hamlin from the hurt themselves list here, but I do want your take right now on Damar Hamlin and Cole Bishop and this safety position.
Yeah, so I think Damar is a lock. I think just the floor he brings to the position is higher. And again, availability is probably the biggest thing about this. Like, he has not really done anything in my eyes to help himself on the field in terms of his play to be like, oh my God, this guy, we're seeing an improvement going into this year. But when you have guys like Cole Bishop who are constantly banged up, the availability is sometimes for Damar Hamlin increases his stock just in and of itself. So I think Damar, you said it, I think he struggles laterally, left to right. I think he struggles, covering the sidelines. And I do think he's going to run support. I think if he knows the ball's coming up the middle, I've seen him fly down the field, right? Run straight line speed. That's fine. Like, I think he's okay in those positions. I think he's a good tackler, like you mentioned. I think he has that capability. But with Cole Bishop missing so much time again, I think they had big plans for Bishop this year. 2nd-round pick. He got some opportunity last year, not a lot, but enough to, for the Bills to feel confident, say, hey, we're putting you at starting safety this year. You're starting next to Rap. That was the plan. I'm telling you, that's what was going to happen. But now with this injury, I think Damar Hamlin, because of his consistency in terms of just being available and knowing the defense and understanding where to be, I think Sean McDermott likes that. And I think that's kind of how his defense functions. Guys that know where to be are more important sometimes than the guys that, they may be a little bit more athletically gifted, but they're not available. They can't, stay on the field. So I think Damar Hamlin's a lock to make this roster. I wouldn't be surprised if he was a starter. Now, do I feel good about that? No, I wanted them. I did not want to go into the season with Taylor Rapp and Damar Hamlin as their starting safeties. I did not. But we're now at a point, it's August 12th as we're recording this, and Cole Bishop hasn't seen the field in over 2 weeks. And Damar Hamlin is out there putting in the work, playing his consistent football. And I think that is a good sign for him. Maybe starting week 1. I'm not going to say he is going to start because still a lot can happen. It's about 3-4 weeks till the regular season, but it's definitely looking a lot more like Damar Hamlin could be on the field. And that doesn't really give me a lot of confidence.
It shouldn't.
It is what it is.
It shouldn't. It shouldn't. It shouldn't, man. Maybe we look back a year or two from now and we'll laugh when thinking that the Bills didn't do anything to address safety this offseason, because maybe Jordan Hancock becomes a really good safety, and maybe him and Bishop or him and Rapp or him and whoever go on to be really good. But when you look at that position, which was a weakness last year, with a safety in Taylor Rapp, who is a pretty good player, but also, you want to talk about being dependable. The last 2 years, the Bills have lost in the playoffs. Taylor Rapp's been out both those games. Damar Hamlin missed 3 games near the end of last year as well. Cole Bishop has been a mess when it comes to his health. And even when he's out there, which, by the way, before Bishop hurt his quad, the first week and a half or so at camp, I was like, he looks decent. It's not like he was looking like Ronnie Lott out there, you know what I mean, before he got hurt either. So the safety position to me has just been weird. Again, Derek Force is a guy they signed who's never been in the mix whatsoever. Cam Lewis has been playing safety, started at safety on Saturday against the Giants, man. The Bills might look back this offseason with some regret that they didn't do more to address this safety position. We're going to finish up here. I do want to say that kind of like, again, in real time, they're reporting Deion Dawkins left practice with the athletic trainers with 52 minutes left to go in practice per Joe B, and didn't return. So we'll see what comes of that. Dad Brown pointed out that Keon Coleman had a really good practice. That's something that we've been hearing a lot of. And Curtis Samuel and Alec Anderson were doing side work, they were doing more side work than normal. So there's hopefully starting to ramp up. I do got one last question for you, and this is jumping way ahead. And we haven't talked about the defensive line at all today, but I've been thinking about this. Now, look, probably somebody gets hurt. It's bound to happen, and it kind of takes care of itself. But as opposed to saying who makes the roster to start the season, potentially, this could be your potential defensive line come week 7. If nobody's injured, okay? If everyone's healthy or nobody's on IR.
Okay.
Edge guys, you got Bosa, Groot, Ebenezer, Hoyt, Solomon, Jackson. That's 6. None of those guys are getting cut before week 1, right? No. Defensive tackles, Daquan Jones, Oliver, Sanders, Deion Walker, Dwayne Carter, Larry Ogunjobi, 6 defensive tackles. None of those guys are getting cut for week 1. It's easy because Ogunjobi and Hoyt are suspended for the first 6 games. Well, I guess my point is, let's get to week 7. Nobody's seriously hurt. No one's on IR. That's 12 defensive linemen. The Bills are not rostering 12 defensive linemen. Man, what happens? Who's going? Who's got to go? It's too early. I mean, look, a lot of things can happen. Maybe Dwayne Carter doesn't do anything. He becomes an easy cut at that point, or maybe he plays well and it's someone I don't know, but I don't see a guy that's just going to get cut. So it's going to get interesting if injuries don't take care of themselves with this Bills defensive line, ain't it? Come week 7, you got 12 guys and they're not keeping 12 defensive linemen.
Yeah, they definitely, Brandon Beane definitely attacked the weakness on the team and in the offseason, and has brought in a lot of, threw a lot of darts, I should say, to try and fix this defensive line. And some darts are better than others. I think Joey Bosa played really well on Saturday. I thought he looked really good to run. He was powerful. He was strong. So that's a really good sign. If you can stay healthy, I think you can take this defensive line to another level. I'm interested about Ogunjobi because, hey, if Daquan Jones, Ed Oliver, TJ Sanders, and Deion Walker, they're getting a lot of the reps in those first 6 weeks. Does Ogunjobi, is he considered, do they not even bring him back and not even activate him? Is that a possibility? I really think that could be maybe the most likely thing if those 4 guys do really play well. And Dwayne Carter, who knows? I think he's kind of a wild card at this point. I don't know what their plans are. If they want to keep him at 3 tech, play him at 1 tech. I don't know what you've seen, Pat, if he's been more at one position or the other, but he's an interesting kind of puzzle piece in all of this. And then Michael Hoyt, I think, is coming back. I think they've seen enough from him. I've seen enough from him at the couple of times where I think he's going to be back no matter what happens. Mm-hmm. Javon Solomon is another interesting one. I was really excited for him this training camp, and I thought he was a guy that was kind of a dark horse player that could maybe make an impact that not many people expected. I thought he didn't play too great. I know he had a couple of pressures on Saturday, but I thought in run support he was struggling to set the edge. I thought he had a couple missed tackles as well. So I think he's another guy. If I had to pick two guys, it'd be Ogunjobi and Solomon as guys that I think might not have an opportunity, because I think Landon Jackson, they're gonna roll with how he progresses. They want to get him out there. He needs to catch up to the game speed. He hasn't really done much, but I think the game just needs to slow down for him. And I think he can become a player that's important for this team down the stretch. So I think I'm looking at Solomon and Ogunjobi as two guys that maybe have trouble come week 7 if they're all healthy of staying on this roster.
Pretty wild that we got 12 extremely rosterable defensive linemen, yet we are staring down the barrel of the gun of a Damar Hamlin being a starting safety again for the Bills come week 1. It's just
so I wanted Malachi Starks, Patrick.
Oh, God. So did you. I think the Bills did too.
Yeah.
And that's funny. Again, you go from a potential safety in round 1 to not taking one, a guy who really is kind of almost a positionalist player right now in Jordan Hancock. It's just, I don't know, man. It's wild. Let's hope Cole Bishop really gets his shit together quick, man. He's still got a couple weeks because I got to see what he does, man. I don't want, we'll be here another 20 minutes. Don't want to go there, AJ. If you ever want to know a way to get me fired up, bring up Damar Hamlin and the Bills safeties. That's one way for sure. All right, guys, make sure you follow AJ on Twitter X at Ajay Cybulski. Check out Trainwreck Sports. Like you said, pay the bills. AJ will be on, especially a lot more when the season starts. Appreciate you jumping on, man. Again, not much notice either. This was a fun conversation. And everyone out there, get to Potter's Field. Appreciate you, buddy.
Yeah, appreciate you having me on. I enjoyed it.
All right, guys, I'll be back. We will review HBO Hard Knocks and plenty of Bills talk coming up with Maniac from Trainwreck Sports tomorrow.